Have you ever seen or heard of a man with no formal education, known for making elementary mistakes and speaking without restraint, yet somehow rising to the highest seat of power in one of the most powerful nations in the world, or even at work? Your co-worker, who can't even work the printer, just got promoted to manager. Meanwhile, you are stuck fixing their mistakes. Have you seen a picture of a woman who lacks experience and knowledge, yet becomes the face of a global brand or institution, dictating trends, shaping public opinion? It is not a coincidence. It is not luck. The world is full of them. Politicians who can't form a coherent sentence, CEOs who don't understand the basics of the products of their own company, influencers who have built empires out of nothing but noise and nonsense. Meanwhile, intelligent, capable, even brilliant people sit on the sidelines, overlooked, unheard, unseen. Why does this happen? Why does the system so often crown the clueless and reward the fools, again and again, ignoring the wise? This isn't just bad luck. This is a pattern. It's older than that, older even than history itself. The answer is not just unfair, it's buried deep in your brain. But you can't recognize it. It is complex, layered, hidden at the intersections of human nature, social structures, and philosophical insights into power itself. If this content makes sense to you, subscribe and let's dive in. Welcome to a world where confidence beats competence, where knowing less can get you more, and where your IQ might actually be holding you back. Through history, both ancient and modern, we see this striking paradox. Many who ascend to power and occupy high positions often appear ill-suited for the responsibilities they inherit. To know the answer, we must first understand the nature of power. Power is not naturally selected for virtue, intelligence, or wisdom. It is selected for ambition, persistence, and often a certain moral flexibility. Niccolò Machiavelli revealed the brutal, pragmatic mechanics of power in his book, The Prince. To Machiavelli, the world is not governed by justice or wisdom, but by fortune and virtue, cunning, strength, and the ability to seize opportunities. In this harsh light, it becomes unsurprising that foolish or morally empty individuals often rise to the highest positions. Indeed, their very flaws become their weapons. Machiavelli knew that appearance outweighs reality in politics and in life. As he wrote in The Prince, everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are. The masses judge by what they can perceive with their eyes, by sight, not by reason. Power is all about appearance, not substance. The many do not wish to think deeply. They seek simple answers, visible symbols, and a leader who flatters their prejudices. The wise man speaks of complexity, of uncertainty, of limits. The fool speaks with confidence, with finality, with slogans. It must be understood. The people do not love wisdom. They love prosperity, spectacle, and security. The man who tells them hard truths earns their hatred, while the man who promises them easy victories earns their loyalty. The wise ruler would teach patience, sacrifice, and moderation. These are not virtues the people admire. They admire noise, action, flattery. The foolish, speaking in simple phrases and offering unrealistic dreams, are embraced as saviors. In the marketplace of leadership, it is not the man who is most capable who wins, but the man who seems capable. Intelligent one often hesitates. The stupid acts. The intelligent one questions. This stupid asserts. The masses, preferring certainty over truth, elevate those who mirror their desires rather than those who reveal their follies. Thus, the foolish, through sheer confidence and the power of illusion, often surpass the truly wise. Moreover, Machiavelli emphasized the rule of fortune in human affairs. Success is not purely a matter of ability, it is deeply tied to chances and opportunities. For Machiavelli, fortune plays a role as great as human skill. Fortune is a woman, and if you want to master her, you must strike and beat her down. He wrote, "The bold, even the foolishly bold, often succeed simply because they dare. When the cautious hesitate, a reckless, simplistic mind can sometimes ride the wave. Fortune favors the bold, the daring, the ruthless. These qualities often found in abundance among the foolish, over the cautious who overthink and miss the moment. The intelligent man sees risks, weighs consequences, deliberates until opportunities pass. The foolish man, untroubled by doubt, leaps forward. In moments of crisis, hesitation is fatal. Action, even foolish action, often seizes the prize. Therefore the fool, with his blind courage and his thick skin against reason, is sometimes better positioned to grasp power than the man burdened by prudence." And in The Prince, Machiavelli also argued that cruelty, if used wisely, can be a tool of power. It is much safer to be feared than loved. Fools, lacking the burden of conscience or deep reflection, can be more ruthless when necessary. They are untroubled by moral doubts. In a world where power often demands harsh actions, stupidity, or rather emotional and intellectual insensitivity, can become a hidden strength. There is another Machiavellian principle that always works. The idea that people prefer the illusion of stability over the discomfort of truth. A clever ruler, as Machiavelli said, must appear virtuous, even if he is not. The foolish often succeed because they are unaware of their own vices, and thus project a false, but convincing, simplicity and honesty. They are not clever enough to appear deceitful, and so they seem authentic to the public, which is a dangerous thing, leading to disasters. Furthermore, Machiavelli understood that institutions are built to preserve themselves, not to elevate the most capable. Those who serve existing powers with loyalty, regardless of their intelligence, are rewarded. The wise, who question and challenge, are naturally distrusted. As Machiavelli noted, a prince must learn how not to be good. To rule is to do what others dare not. It requires acts that good men shudder to contemplate. Foolish rulers, unburdened by moral reflection, are more ruthless when needed. They do not waste time on internal debates about right and wrong. They do not tremble at the shedding of blood, the breaking of promises, or the betrayal of allies. In the brutal arena of politics, such insensitivity to morality is not a flaw. It is an advantage. Thus, the foolish, precisely because they lack the conscience that paralyzes better men, survive and thrive where the wise perish. Those too intelligent often refuse to compromise their ideals. Fools, having none, are flexible and survive. Ultimately, Machiavelli would see the rise of the stupid to power, not as an accident or failure of society, but as the natural order of society. Power favors the bold, the ruthless, the simple-minded who can adapt without scruple. Wisdom, reflection, and conscience. These are luxuries for philosophers, not for princes. Thus, under a Machiavellian lens, the foolish rise because they embody the qualities that power demands: shameless audacity, emotional detachment, the skill of appearance without substance, and an indifference to the moral costs of their ascent. It is not a tragedy. It is the price of living in a world ruled not by ideals, but by the ruthless dance between fortune and virtue. On the other hand, Friedrich Nietzsche challenged the very foundations of Western thought. He rejected the idea that truth, morality, or rationality were objective realities. Instead, he proposed that all systems of value are created by those seeking power. Nietzsche's concept of the will to power suggests that individuals strive not for truth, but for dominance. In his view, traditional virtues like wisdom, humility, and honesty are often tools used by the weak to constrain the strong. The so-called wise may be nothing more than cowards, hiding behind moral codes. From this perspective, the rise of the foolish elite makes perfect sense. If power is the ultimate goal, then any means, including ignorance, manipulation, or brute force, are justified. Nietzsche's critique undermines the notion that intelligence guarantees success. Instead, he implies that raw ambition and the ability to impose one's will are what truly matter. In today's world, where authenticity and disruption are celebrated, Nietzschean anti-intellectualism finds fertile ground. The successful fool may not be wise, but they embody the unrestrained will to power that appeals to a culture tired of tradition and skeptical of expertise. Also, Plato, in the Republic, warned against democracy's tendency to produce demagogues, charismatic leaders who appeal to emotion rather than reason. He argued that uneducated masses, swayed by rhetoric and spectacle, could not distinguish between true wisdom and mere persuasion. In his Allegory of the Cave, Plato depicted humanity as chained prisoners, seeing only shadows of reality, mistaking illusions for truth. He envisioned an ideal state governed by philosopher kings, those who had seen the light of truth and could rule justly. But in practice, he feared the masses would choose rulers who flattered them, promised easy solutions, and played to their basest instincts. The result would be tyranny masked as populism. This fear is echoed in real-world examples. Leaders who lack depth or nuance, but possess charisma and simplicity, often outmaneuver more qualified rivals. Their messages resonate, not because they are wise, but because they reinforce existing biases and offer emotional comfort. Plato's warning rings true. The ignorant, if given the reins, may drag society back into darkness. Aristotle, unlike Plato, believed that rhetoric, the art of persuasion, was a legitimate and necessary tool in politics. While he valued reason highly, he acknowledged that effective leadership required more than logic. It needed the ability to communicate persuasively. In Rhetoric, Aristotle outlines how speakers must understand their audience's emotions, beliefs, and values. A skilled speaker can connect with listeners on an emotional level, even if their arguments lack substance. This creates a troubling dynamic. Someone who understands how to manipulate feelings can gain power regardless of their actual competence. While philosophy provides abstract frameworks, psychology helps explain the mechanics of how the foolish rise. One notable phenomenon is the Dunning-Kruger effect, identified by psychologists David Dunning and Justin Kruger. This cognitive bias describes how individuals with low competence tend to overestimate their abilities, while competent individuals underestimate theirs. Stupid people often believe they are smarter than they are because they lack the metacognitive skills to assess their own limitations. They exude confidence. Confident people are more likely to take risks, speak boldly, and present themselves as leaders. Meanwhile, intelligent individuals, aware of the complexity of issues, hesitate to make sweeping claims or act decisively. This creates a paradox. The less you know, the more confident, and therefore credible, you may appear. In corporate boardrooms, political campaigns, and job interviews, the confident fool often outcompetes the humble expert. The former sells certainty, the latter admits doubt. In a world terrified of uncertainty, the fool wins, Finally, we must confront the uncomfortable truth. Meritocracy is largely a myth. While many societies pay lip service to the idea that the best and brightest should lead, systemic inequalities, nepotism, media manipulation, and institutional biases ensure otherwise. Social networks, privilege, and luck often determine who ascends. Intelligence alone is insufficient. Without access, connections, or the ability to navigate unwritten rules, those born into advantageous circumstances have a head start, regardless of their native ability. Furthermore, institutions often prioritize conformity over critical thinking. Employees who challenge the status quo are punished, while those who echo dominant opinions are promoted, even if those opinions are shallow or misinformed. In this environment, the foolish do not succeed because they are smart. They succeed because they are convenient, compliant, or well-connected. Their stupidity may even be an asset, making them easier to manipulate or replace. Meritocratic ideals are comforting fables that allow us to believe in fairness. But when we peel back the layers, we find a system that rewards not intelligence, but alignment with power dynamics. The paradox of the foolish in power is not a bug in the system, it is a feature. Throughout history and across cultures, we have seen that intelligence does not always win. Charisma, confidence, manipulation, and sheer luck often play larger roles. Philosophers from Plato to Camus have warned us that human judgment is fallible, that truth is elusive, and that power is often wielded by those who crave it most, regardless of their qualifications. Modern psychology confirms that fools often outperform the wise because they believe in themselves more strongly. But all is not lost. Recognizing this paradox can empower us. By understanding how perception, rhetoric, and social structures shape success, we can become more discerning voters, employees, and citizens. We can question appearances, demand substance, and resist the allure of empty promises. Ultimately, the rise of the foolish is a mirror held up to society. It reflects our deepest insecurities, our desire for simplicity, and our discomfort with complexity. Until we evolve beyond the need for easy answers and charismatic distractions, the foolish will continue to rise, and we will keep wondering why. Thus, we live under the reign of fools, not because wisdom has no voice, but because folly has a louder one. Until mankind values suffering over comfort, truth over pleasure, and wisdom over validation, the throne will always belong to the stupid. In the end, the greatest lesson may be this: the real danger is not the presence of fools among us, but our willingness to follow them without question. Here, at kthe, we don't look away, we question everything. Subscribe, not for comfort, but for clarity.